Cracker Barrel is in panic mode after a shocking twist that they didn't see coming, and now the company is still facing a full-blown customer revolt. Now, Cracker Barrel is in trouble, as you all know, and the backlash isn't slowing down. Now, new reports indicated, as I talked about yesterday, that Cracker Barrel's leadership ignored the investor warnings, ignored customers, and pushed forward with a rebrand that nobody wanted. Okay. And now, Cracker Barrel is still dealing with empty restaurants, furious shareholders, and even growing calls for the CEO to step down. Now, the decisions Cracker Barrel made have left the company facing a crisis entirely of its own making. Now, the backlash keeps growing, and as Cracker Barrel seems to enter panic mode after a report of the shocking twist that happened that we just learned yesterday. They didn't know we were going to find out. So, as reported yesterday, the Cracker Barrel CEO, Julie Messino, basically, she knew that she was going against a major investor in Vice, and she went full steam ahead anyway. One of the Cracker Barrel's top investors warned her repeatedly that gutting the company's identity would actually backfire. Not only did she push forward, but she simply doubled down on every expensive decision, from redesigning locations to overhauling the logo while emptying the company's reserves. Now, the backlash, as you all know, hit instantly. Families showed up at their local Cracker Barrel over the weekend and walked into, empty dining rooms. Servers reported dead zones. Customers are still furious, okay? Now, even more unbelievable, the media tried to spin this as an attack by, quote, right-wingers, as if half the country spontaneously decided that they hated pancakes and rocking chairs. But that narrative from CNN fell apart fast. You see, even Democrats and high-profile names like Gavin Newsom, the failed governor of California, piled on, openly mocking the company for nuking its own identity. And this is not a political divide; it's customers across the board saying Cracker Barrel's charm is gone. And people don't want a sterilized corporate-looking chain. They simply want the rustic, old-school vibe that made it unique in the first place. Messino stripped all of that away. Now, to make it worse, Cracker Barrel just simply announced that they walked back the logo and after the massive pushback, but they were not walking back the deeper, more damaging changes. You see, menus were gutted. Stores were redesigned and decades of personality removed. Bringing back Uncle Herschel's breakfast platter won't fix this big mess at all. And contractors are already booked, remodels are underway, and millions are already sunk into changes that the people hate. And it's the classic corporate mistake with trying to reinvent an iconic brand into something no one asked for. And let me remind y'all, this is not about the logo itself. It's actually about everything. For the past 5 years, customers have started to stop coming in and everything because the food got worse. Also the changes made to the restaurants and stuff. And simply put, I mean, if you want them back, you got to go ahead and try to make those changes. Even though they spend $700 million to go ahead and get these things done, with $1 million at every location. And I'm still thinking that there's some money being spent elsewhere on different things instead of what they were trying to put out there in the first place. Now, shareholders are furious. You see, Steak and Shake is openly calling for Messino to be fired, mocking the Cracker Barrel disaster publicly on X, and even selling fire the CEO hats. And this is not just competitors piling on, they're share investors, and the knives are out. One top investor produced a brutal 120-page slide deck detailing every bad decision the board made. And in his words, Cracker Barrel isn't a broken brand, it has a broken board. That's the problem right there. You had leadership chasing trendy buzzwords while you still keep alienating the exact people who made the company successful. Now, this all traces back to one fundamental issue. The leadership of Cracker Barrel has stopped listening to their audience. A 7-page letter sent to the board warned them not to gut the company's identity. It pointed out how badly things could spiral if they abandoned their customer base in favor of corporate consultants and modernization pillars. You see, they ignored it completely. The CEO did. She hired outside branding agencies at massive cost, even bringing in a Canadian firm to Americanize the aesthetic. And the results looked nothing like the classic experience that the people loved. Now, it's a total disconnect from what made the chain popular in the first place. Meanwhile, Cracker Barrel's leadership can't hide behind the market forces or declining restaurant traffic simply because other brands have figured this out. You see, Steak and Shake leaned into what made them successful and actively turned their business around. Now, their retro branding works, their diners look authentic, and they actually understand why people show up. And by contrast, on the other hand, Cracker Barrel dumped its identity for something that looks like a Magnolia Network kitchen renovation, and then just acted surprised as usual when customers revolted. And you don't fix something iconic by making it look like everywhere else. And also, the stock price is over $62 a share right now, and apparently investors don't understand what the customers who ate there actually want either. Now, the chaos inside Cracker Barrel's boardroom isn't just about, the aesthetic either. You see, investors are calling out wasteful spending, poor resource allocation, and leadership ignoring the proven strategies. Now, simply put, the company's original expansion the expansion plan called for over 1,000 stores, but they failed to hit targets for nearly a decade. Now, despite all these warnings to focus on improving existing locations, leadership chased massive remodels that no one wanted instead of just simply listening to the people who actually eat there. Now, this isn't just a branding problem, it's a leadership problem, as you all know, okay? And here's the kicker. Cracker Barrel is doubling down on the same playbook that's burning other brands to the ground. You see, their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives aren't just, expensive. They're alienating loyal customers without pulling in the new audience that they actually hope for, okay? You see, the annual report bragged about these business resource groups that actually divided by identity, excluding people instead of just, bringing them together. You see, customers want a place where everyone is welcome, not a corporate lecture about belonging. And by chasing corporate trends instead of just serving their base, well, they're following the same failed model that wrecked other brands as well. Now, investors warned that alienating your existing customer base while gambling on attracting a new one almost never works. Now we're seeing the results, and Cracker Barrel locations are emptier, revenues are down, and even competitors are mocking them publicly. But even worse, they've simply split their audience without gaining a replacement. Honestly, it's the same mistake that Disney made with Marvel and even Star Wars, where you're just assuming that they could just gut the old franchise and automatically replace it with the new one. Now, that particular strategy failed there, and it's failing here, except Cracker Barrel doesn't have billion-dollar franchises to fall back on. But what makes this so insane is that Cracker Barrel's core base wasn't asking for any of this. Now, nobody was demanding a new logo, stripped down stores, or reworked menus. You see, people wanted the same cozy old country vibe that made it famous in the first place. That's what brought generations of family back year after year. Now, when you blow up everything that actually makes your brand special just to chase industry fads, you actually lose everyone in the process. And unlike Disney or Bud Light, Cracker Barrel doesn't have the cultural footprint to even survive in an identity crisis like this without long-term damage. Now, the worst part, Messino and the board for Cracker Barrel aren't signaling any plans to change course. You see, instead, they're standing behind the rebrand, refusing to reverse the deeper changes, refusing to leave the woke elements alone, and treating every backlash as temporary nonsense. That's a dangerous assumption when empty dining rooms and plummeting stock and furious investors are staring you in the face. I mean, you can't spend nearly $1 billion alienating your loyal audience and expect them to come crawling back. You see, customers are moving on, and every empty seat is proving it. And meanwhile, Steak and Shake and other competitors are actually capitalizing on the chaos. Their social media teams are roasting Cracker Barrel daily, leaning into their own nostalgic identity while simply pulling frustrated customers away. Now, when your rivals are out marketing you by mocking your collapse, you've lost control of the narrative. Now, simply put, Cracker Barrel isn't driving the conversation anymore. You see, they've become the punchline. Now, this isn't just about one company. It's a lesson for every legacy brand. The people who supported you for decades don't want to be ignored or replaced. You see, trying to rebuild your identity for a hypothetical new customer always backfires. Cracker Barrel thought, it could sanitize its brand, strip away personality, and chase a generic corporate look without consequence. Now, instead, they've ended up with furious loyalists who are former loyalists now, dwindling traffic, and investors openly demanding leadership changes. Now, honestly, unless Cracker Barrel reverses course fast, well, they're on track for a long-term decline that could take years to recover from. Now, if recovery is even possible. The damage to trust, brand identity, and customer loyalty is not something you fix with a press release or a few menu tweaks. This was a conscious choice to walk away from what made them successful in the first place. And now they're paying the price for ignoring the people who actually mattered most. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads, notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.